guys, it's Ree, and today we're going to be doing my April monthly wrap-up and my May TBR. Okay, so I think that April was a pretty good reading month. I got a lot of books read from my TBR, so let's just jump into it. Okay, so the first book that I read wasn't until like the rereadathon. That was like the second week of April. And I guess I was kind of in a reading slump. So the first book that I read was during the readathon, and it was Little Red Riding Hood by Brothers Grimm, illustrated by Daniel Ignius, however you say that. And I really love this story. I love the artwork in it. It's so different, and I loved it just as much as the first time that I read it. The next book was Nicholas Sparks, which also I read during the rereadathon, and it was At First Sight. I really like to read Nicholas Sparks books. They really touch me in the feels. And this is not my favorite. I think my favorite is still A Walk to Remember or The Last Song, but it's still a good reread. Next up is The Hiding Place by David Bell, and this one was an engrossing tale with unique plot twists. It still keeps me interested even though I have read it before, but it's a really good story. I liked it. It's kind of creepy in some spots, but... Next up is The Surrogate by Catherine McKeel, and I loved how creepy this book was. It's a really good read. I loved it. Next up is The Fiery Heart, a Bloodlines novel by Rochelle Mead, and I love Sydney and Adrian's relationship throughout this whole book. There are a lot of surprises and plot twists, which I love, and when I don't actually know what's going on or what's going to happen, I kind of love it, being surprised by a book. It actually took me a while not to enjoy this book because I knew that I was going to actually have to wait for a while before the next one to come out. But overall, I ended up loving it, and I think this might be my favorite out of all of the Bloodlines novels. Next up is This Is What Happy Looks Like by Jennifer E. Smith, and it was really cute in all of its nothingness, but I think I like the statistical probability of love at first sight more. Next up is The Boy in Striped Pajamas by John Boyne something. I really like this book. I wanted to see if I could, because I knew it was going to be sad. I was trying to prepare myself, because I want to read The Book Thief eventually, but overall I did enjoy it. It was heartbreaking and sad, and that ending was so tear. But I ended up really liking it. It's a heartbreaking story, and I mean, I think eventually I'm going to work my way up to The Book Thief because that's supposed to be heartbreaking as well. Next up is Fallen by Lauren Kate, and I've actually had this in my TBR pile for quite a long time. I didn't really love it. I didn't hate it. It's just, I don't know. It was alright. I think it was kind of boring, but I'm glad I read it and took it out of my TBR pile, and yeah. Next up is Torment by Lauren Kate, and this is pretty much the same way. By this point I was starting to care about the characters and stuff like that, but it shouldn't take a whole book for me to be invested in it. Next up is Passion by Lauren Kate, and it was kind of confusing. It kind of went back in time. I did finish this book way faster than the other two, but it was still... But at this point, I was thinking it would be an alright series, maybe. Next up is Fallen in Love by Lauren Kate, and I don't think this was fit to print. It was alright. I think it would have been better in ebook. I mean, it wasn't... I don't know. I don't know if you should have committed to paper, but it was okay. But it wasn't great. And And lastly, from Lauren Kate is Passion, and this is the, no, not Passion, Rapture, and this is the last in the series. Going in, I didn't expect it to be amazing, but it was alright. I think it ended up being a pretty alright series. I mean, it's okay, but it didn't blow me out of the water, which was kind of sad because these covers are kind of pretty. Next up, I read The Program by Suzanne Young, and I didn't really know that much going into it. I knew that it had a pretty it had like one of those second covers, which is really pretty or really cool. And this book I didn't really know that much about. I really like this book. It was amazing. This is definitely in the running for my top 14 in 2014. So it's pretty good. I really liked it. I would definitely recommend it. It was kind of depressing in the beginning, but I guess with a book about teen suicides being an epidemic, I did not really expect much else. Next up, I have Divergent by Veronica Roth, and I only read, one of the main reasons why I read this was because my sister and my mom read it, and they loved it, and so I figured that I should read it too. And I know I'm late on the whole Divergent train, but I'm really glad that I got on board. This is a really, really good book, and I hear that it gets better and better for the next two books, and I'm really excited to read those. But yeah, I'm probably gonna do another book pick something later. Next up, I read Inside Divergent by Cecilia Bernard, and I like those books where it kind of like goes back to the world and it like explains other things, and it was a pretty good book. It made me go a little bit more inside of the world of Divergent, which was awesome. And lastly, I read Uglies by Scott Westerfeld, and this thing kind of was a superficial book in the beginning, well, I guess throughout it, but with the name of Uglies, I guess I shouldn't have expected anything else, or I should have known better, I guess, but I really liked it. It was a pretty good story. I think it actually picked up a lot more when she got out of the city and when she went towards the smoke. But it was amazing. I liked it, and yeah, that's everything for the monthly wrap up. And let's go into TBR. Okay, so I don't have that many books planned out to read right now for the month of May, but I do have 2 readathons coming up, and they are back to back. They start on the 5th, I think, is a year-a-thon. It starts on the 5th, and it lasts a week, and the other one starts on the 12th. And that's the Battle Books 10.0 readathon, which is pretty much amazing. I love those things. I love readathons because it actually gets me to read a little bit more through a week's time. But yeah, let's just go into the books that I am going to be reading that is not part of the readathon, because the readathon books are going to be in a whole different video. So let's get started on this section. Alright, so right now I'm still currently reading The Diviners by Liver Bray, and I haven't gotten too much into it. It's kind of interesting, so I'm excited to see what happens. I'm also reading Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I figured that I should read a TBR book, or TBR jar book, that I actually did not film me picking it out, but I wanted to read something a little bit more like random, so I picked Pride and Prejudice from last, like, I guess the last week, and I've just been reading little bits at a time, and yeah. And the last thing that I'm currently reading is Pretties by Scott Westerfeld, and I'm excited to see what happens with Shay and Tally, so I'm excited to see what happens there. Besides those 3 books that I'm currently reading, I am also going to be trying to pick up My Sister's Keeper by Jodi Picoult. I did watch the movie. It was very heartbreaking, so I'm excited to see how the book matches up to the movie. The Treatment by Suzanne Young. I don't know if this is the last book, if it's a duology or a series. I actually don't know. I didn't even know that the program was had a second book, so I'm actually really excited to see what happens with Sloane and James and Realm. So I'm excited to read this one. And lastly, I have Beauty Queens by Libba Bray, and I heard this one's kind of weird, but I saw it at my library, and so I decided to pick it up. And then lastly, I wanted to do another TBR jar book, so let's just pick one up, shall we? Okay, so I picked my book, and it is going to be Rules for Becoming a Legend by Timothy S. Lane. Alright, this is a book that I got for free by a publisher, which is kind of awesome. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. That's all the books that I'm going to be reading that's not part of the readathon for the month of May. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Bye!